for this that I was trying to tell you you had a bovine disease, but you don't. You don't, right? You
Yeah.
actually maybe we should tell everyone, give everyone your words of wisdom about surviving hand, foot, and mouth, not hoof. There's no hoof in
No.
yo. Although I believe we should just accept that as the even for the human beings, that's the disease or the sickness we should call it.
Just mad cow disease. Basically, it's always mad cow disease.
It's always mad cow. Well, I don't know. That may get us in trouble. So, but you're
Oh.
back. Look like you were showing me that you don't have to, or you can if you want. But you were showing me some of your recovery.
You know, you get these little sores is such a grody word. You get these little welts or bumps or whatever. They just look like sores, and mine are finally dying down after a week. Yeah, it's crazy. Like here's what happened, just for the people, whoever to listen. Like I had this a new presentation, more or less, is my new version of, like, I was very strident. I called it Kubernetes is not for developers when I submitted it, and when I presented it, I put an ellipses with a question mark, right? And the whole thing was like, I like to every now and then come in and see if Kubernetes is for developers or not, what the deal with that is. And so I gave that presentation to this Russian conference. I think eventually they'll put it for free on YouTube. I don't know. It was one of these like extremely well produced conferences, right? Like, have you presented at one of these extremely well presented online conferences, Brandon? Where
Not in a while, but I like it. I like it when it's all like done for me. That's the best.
Yeah. No, I mean, you got to log in, and they're like, can you lean forward some more? And there's at least 2 AV people online who are like doing something. You have to log into this completely separate, different system. Like when we were doing VMworld
and DevOps system, that's like really hard to use. I know you're talking about.
Yeah, and it just looks. I mean, this one was pretty nice, and I think it's because the people who run the conference wrote it themselves, which is just a treat.
Wow. Okay,
but
that's a lot of effort.
I mean, it was a good system, but very, very highly produced. And also, this is a new thing in conferences. They had it was, by the way, it was called DevOps, DEVOOPS. I don't know. I didn't really ask about that name, but
right.
They had a format where they called it literally small talk. Like at the beginning, they have this person who they call it the expert, and they're sort of like they're just like a person who's like hanging out there. And this one was nice. He actually worked at a company. He's in Raleigh, even though it was a Russian conference, and he worked at a company that makes the when you get braces and it's like a clear plastic thing you stick in your mouth.
Yes, Invisalign.
Yeah. He worked at some company that makes those, and like, so we were talking about that before we were recording, and like they have he said they have like 1,000 developers because they are vertically integrated.
The Invisalign company has 1,000 developers.
I don't know. I forget what it's called. It's called something. It's called Align. The name of the company is.
But whatever. A business in the business of making dental correction to soft. 1,000 developers.
Okay, so now I had the same reaction. He was like, "Well, that's because like we do everything, like from doing it online, and then we 3D print it, and then we have the factories like running stuff, and like." I was kind of like, yeah, okay, I can see that, right? Like if it's actually a pretty big company and you like write the software for your own like if you're for your own factory and if you're doing a lot of the stuff, anyways, whatever. That was fat. But then when it officially starts, you have like 2 to 3 minutes of just like small talk, just like, talking about the programming language. And then you give your presentation. And then this person facilitates Q&A, and then they do the thing where like you can go to a separate Zoom thing for like Q&A, which I don't know. There was actually someone in there who had a lot to say about the conflicting nature between statically assigning stuff in Docker files and that Java expects static things. And something about how, like, with Spring, you could maybe, I don't know, it was very, very, I don't know enough about how environment variables are passed around, into Docker stuff running in Kubernetes. And there's just some concern about how static stuff was versus not. And so that's what that conversation was about.
Sounds exciting. That's always good, though. I mean, sometimes when someone comes off and just takes the Q&A over for like their own personal reasons, it's the best thing. It's like, it's like a little panel. It's like a mini panel. You're like, go for it.
It was also fine because that was the only person there. So, yeah. Anyhow, my whole point in that story was that it was. This has never really happened to me before, and I never believe it when people say this happens. But like, so this whole thing, I went over the length of it. It takes like 90 minutes, right? Like, and so I went through that whole thing. Everything was fine. I think it went pretty well. It was done. And then this is like around when I sent a message to you guys, like I was done, and I was taking my computer apart. That's I was shutting down everything.
Yeah, getting packed up.
Mm-hmm. And then I go upstairs and I'm playing with my daughter, and I'm like, "Ooh, I don't feel good." And like all of a sudden, like within like 2 hours, I had like a fever, and it's just like weird. Like somehow, is that my stuff beeping? Oh, I know what that is. Hold on.
Your house, it's your home. What is that? I don't know. Now
I set this alarm
for the recording.
Yeah, in case I fell asleep.
All right. Well, hey, it's time to start recording. 15 minutes. We're even early this week.
Anyways, yeah. So like then within like a few hours, like I just have like a fever and I'm like laid out, and it's totally weird. Like I said, I've never my body was just like, "Oh, I got to present on this fucking Kubernetes presentation." And then it's time to punch out.
That sounds like one of those things sometimes people say, like, if you get sick on vacation, they're like, "Yo, your body's just, like you just get relaxed and your body gets sick." And I always wondered, I mean, it's, back to like one of the things, like the human brain like needs to come up with stories to explain things. I'm always like, I wonder if there's actually any truth to that. Like if you're in a point of like heightened awareness, like work status or whatever, and then you like, does your body, if you get into a more relaxed state, does your body, I don't know, immune system or something like slow down? It seems like it would be the opposite. It seems like if you're relaxed, your immune system would be like, yeah, I'm ready to go. I'm like fighting off all the problems.
Yeah, so, and probably also like in our in our favorite category of like things seem like they are, but they're actually not. It's like that's it could just be a coincidence.
Like right. There is no reason. You just got sick. Like there is no, which is always probably the right answer. It's like, well, you're going to get sick certain times.
That's like, it reminds me of one of my favorite, I used to watch a lot of stand up in the late 80s on the Comedy Channel. And there was one that I remember very specifically where he's like, "You've always got these friends," and they're like, "Don't you think there's something crazy going on where like, you're walking down the street and you're thinking about a coffee, and all of a sudden you walk by a coffee shop? I mean, like, what is up with that?" And the guy's just like, "Yeah, that's what a coincidence is. That's literally what it's a coincidence." Anyways,
yeah.
Of course, he tells it better, but it's just there's nothing magic. It's a coincidence.
Magic, like so many things. There's nothing magic.
Yeah. So, anyways, my only, I didn't know you got a fever, but like, just you get a fever, lasts for about a day and a half. I read a book that was nice.
Did you actually have to did you go to the doctor, or was it just write it out?
No.
Yeah. That's right.
I mean, I can. All they do over here is prescribe paramedisol, and like, I got plenty of ibuprofen on my own. I write my own prescription for it, and
I think that's like something I've learned. It's like as an adult, almost like I never want to go to. I mean, I need to be like deathly ill, right, and have tried everything to go to the doctor. But as a parent, I found it's often better just take the kid. It's better. It's just that way. Like, I don't know, just like that relaxes me. I'd rather just pay the money and be like, "Oh, okay, that's what it was." So I've never quite understood my, when it's your child, you're like, "Yeah, let's get it done." When it's you, you're like, no way am I going to the doctor.
Yeah. Mm. I think that's true. It's because I think the adult body is a lot more hardened. Like, like you're like, because like
road tested.
Yeah, with an adult body, you're like, I don't know. I could take 1 ibuprofen or 6. What's the difference, really?
It doesn't matter.
whereas
kind of like the vaccines. It's like, yeah, whatever. Like, I'll take 2. I'll take the third dose. 2 for 1 and another third. Yeah, hit me again. I'm good.
Whereas like with the kid, you're like, I don't know. Is there a big difference? There's probably a big difference between 6 and 7 milliliters. I don't know.
Someone tell me. Oh, that's perfect. All right.
Let's see what we got here.
As always, we've got a bunch of, I don't know, grab bag stuff.
Do you have some grand Brandon theory on executives leaving? Or is that just a coincidence?
I don't know. Well, I guess I did. I think the Twilio and Splunk, I thought we could maybe talk about that. and then we can make and then AWS. That was sort of like maybe next week we'll make reinvent predictions. But I thought that was interesting. I don't know. I had some like.
All right, and then okay, and then I did research, like I said, on what a Jamstack is.
So that's for was it
Maybe I can
Netfly,
bring
right?
that up. Yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah,
think
the
that's a good
Heroku
tweet.
and
I don't know if you read that tweet. I thought it was really good though. It's about I think that really did a good job like
yeah,
distilling what people want. I mean, that's kind of your neighborhood too. It's like, no, it's like I just want Git push. I was like, oh, that's right. I was like,
yeah.
I don't
That
know.
did.
I just like that was like a really what do you say here? It's like what we actually want is Git push Heroku main. And that's it. It's like that's what everyone wants. That's what people want. It's like that's what everyone wants. Just like Git push. That's it. So I don't know. I thought that part was interesting.
Yeah, yeah.
So we can talk about that more if you want.
Isn't he a coworker of mine?
I don't know, Brian
I'm
Lau.
pretty. I mean, unless he recently isn't, because
I don't
he
even
was
look.
on he was at one of our conferences on a panel, and I could have sworn. I'm only hesitating because I have a terrible memory, and it doesn't say on his Twitter profile. So let me look him up here. I'm not going to open Workday. That's a lot of work.
That's gonna start up all new.
Yeah, there he is. Who does he?
He's
Ooh,
part of your tribe then.
yeah, that's right. He's over there. Maryland. He's from your neck of the woods.
Perfect.
You know, up north there in New England.
Up north. Yeah. Way up north. Almost just below Canada.
That's right. Just right on the mosquito line.
That's right, exactly.
All right, sounds good.
Hey man. Well, are you recording on your end? I guess it doesn't matter. I got 3 recordings going here, and we had this.
Okay,
So
good.
we're good. Yeah. Whenever. Go ahead. Whenever you're ready.
All right. Well, I did something recently that reminded me of a sales conference, the last major sales conference I went to, which was one that Pivotal had in San Diego. Now, this was maybe it was in 2018. No, it must have been 2017, because that was the year that Pivotal and I talked about me moving to Europe, and it started off at that sales conference. And I moved in August 2018, so it must have been 20. I don't know, somewhere in there. Who knows? Took a long time, but so I got these house shoes. I think I probably even talked about them on this podcast if you rolled back the episodes. And they're some Hawaiian brand. I'm wearing them right now. They have like a Maui hook on them, and
Very nice. Beautiful.
they've got like they're called OLUKAI. Despite Moana being my daughter's favorite movie, so I watch it 1 to 20 times a day. I can't pronounce that kind of thing. But and then they've got sheepskin in there, and they've got they're solid shoes. They got nice rubber there. And I remember I bought them. I remember we had this discussion. I was like, these seem like the perfect all-around shoe. They're very soft. They're slip-on shoes. And so I wore them out, not in as to use them until they are worn down, but I wore them out to that sales conference because they were great. And you could start living my dream of not wearing socks, right?
Right.
Like you just
wait a minute. I
like,
thought you said they were house shoes, but you're wearing them at the conference. Like
you've been paying attention. That's good.
Yeah?
That's good. Right.
Okay.
So I was trying to kind of move them. I was trying to get the one shoe, the one shoe sort of thing going. And I realized that this was not going to work after I think I had been walking around. And if you wear like sheep fur lined shoes, right? Even in like the kind of cool San Diego sort of winter time, like it just gets way too hot. Like it's not breathable, right?
Okay.
There's something about, and then confusingly, this is probably like one of those, Mr. Wizard episodes that I missed. But for some reason, if you put socks on, this solves the hotness problem, right? Like it's very like putting putting more fabric on so that you don't have like direct contact with like the sheepskin fur stuff. Like it just kind of solves the problem, which is weird. So anyways, my dreams were dashed. of being able to wear these shoes as just like my all shoes. I remember I went to go buy some shoes at some little surf shop. They were cool shoes, but I fall into this trap all the time. I bought the shoes too small. And like, I was just too rushed at the time. But I went walking the dog with my daughter recently, and I came back from walking the dog, and I was like, "Oh, I was wearing my house shoes that whole time." Right? Like I could change my shoes out, and she was like, "Daddy, oh, you're so crazy." Right? Like she's very she likes to remind me how much of a doofus I am. I don't know where she gets that from. And so my thinking is, Brandon, like how many times my question is, how many times can you accidentally wear your house shoes out of the house before they become like, out of the house shoes? You know what I mean? Like the first time you do it, you're probably like, oh man, it's like, it's like opening like the comic book pack, right? The comic book is wrong. It's like opening some package of a toy, and it's like a big step once you've taken it outside. And
Right.
maybe you're like, it's okay if I do it a few more times, but like at some point, I feel like there's a tipping point where like every day I'm just like wearing the house shoes to go take the garbage out, right? Like I just switch and I'm like, oh, I'm not going to do the Mr. Rogers thing where I take off these shoes and put these shoes on for outside. It's just like these are just shoes now that I just wear in and out
All
of the
right,
house.
I do. I have an immediate metric for you. I think once every 90 days, and also to it be counted as an official outing of house shoes. It means like you had to be out for like 15, 20 minutes and you had to actually go somewhere. Like if you're just taking the trash out, like, grabbing something off the front porch, doing something. I believe like I actually put that in the house shoe category of like you're just around your house and you're just stepping out for like a moment, like greeting a neighbor, whatever. Like that's like to me, that's still a function of a house shoe. It doesn't, I don't have this line where
Yeah.
like as soon as it goes outside, it doesn't. But what I see happen with some people, like my son has some house shoes, which is like yet another story. But anyway, one night he like wore them out, right? And they're like their slip-ons are very comfortable. But I guess they're not super. I think they're fine. They're fine fashion wise, but like he wore them out accidentally to like a group event with kids, and he was like very quick to show everyone, like, "Hey, these aren't. I know. I wore my house shoes. It was an accident." Like he was volunteering it. I was like, if you don't say anything, I don't think anyone noticed. But it was like, but to him, it was like, no, this isn't on purpose. This was just a mistake. And of course, we don't even have like a requirement of house shoes. This is just on his own. So, but anyway, I told him, I was like, don't worry about it. It's fine. Like, we'll just take them off. But I think once every 90 days and then it resets and then you get like kind of another chance. But yeah, if you're doing it like, twice, 2 or 3 times a week, then at some point, yeah, you just retire them as house shoes.
They've just become shoes, right?
Yeah. They're just regular shoes. Yeah. They're just shoes. So.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. That's good. That's good. I think maybe, you know what? And this has happened before. I mean, now that I might start traveling more, it's happened at least once where I'll be at the airport and I'm like, holy shit, I forgot to change my shoes. And I think I bought the current Converse I have. I think I bought because I was out. I was at Schiphol, and I looked down, and I was wearing these shoes. And that's like that's some sort of travel achievement. I'm not sure if it's a good one, but I definitely have that badge.
Okay. Yeah. Have that badge. Let me put that in there. Have that badge. Now, does your family have the policy? Like, are you like a no shoes in the house kind of family, or are you just like it doesn't matter?
No. Yeah. I mean, I think effectively we are. No one really wears their shoes around the house,
But it's
but
not like if people come over, you make them take them off, or
no,
I don't know. Or
not at
maybe
all.
is that like a Dutch thing? I don't know.
I don't know what they.
We're
That's a
definitely
good.
like you can just wear the shoes in the house. It doesn't
I'm
matter.
trying
But
to
I've been to
think.
other people's houses where like that's the custom. You take off their shoes, right?
Yeah,
But I
yeah,
don't
for
like
sure.
not. It's weird though. Like my son and I are both the same. Like we even in our own house, we like to have our shoes on. Which I mean, I think some people think that's crazy, but I'm like like my wife generally doesn't. But I'm like I don't know. I like shoes on
Yeah,
pretty much if I'm like up around doing anything. I don't know.
yeah, that's true.
I don't know why
I
that
have a
is
lot of
though.
mixed feelings. I mean, like if it's cold, I want socks on, right? But then the
Right?
problem is like, we got narrow Dutch staircases, so I also don't want to kill myself, right?
Yeah.
And then the floors are wood, so it's like, and then I'm holding a baby, so it's like I can't really go
Yeah.
around the house with
Yeah.
socks, so I got to wear something. So there's
Yeah.
that. But then, even if it's warm, like I prefer, I would wear my feet, so to speak. But then, like, your feet get all dirty, right? And then next
Mhm.
thing, and then you got, I don't know, it's very confusing, and then it's tough.
Well, there's like a whole like I'm looking at the chat here. There's actually, I mean, we could come up with like almost like a set of rule based policies that promote house shoes to just regular shoes. I like Ryan's. Like, yeah, as soon as you step in dog poop, that's it. They're just shoes. That immediately.
Yeah, I think
That's
that's
a good
true.
one. There's probably a bunch of them in here. I like this. This will be like a good. What else did I see in here? Yeah, I like that. All right, that's a good. Ryan, you're on top of it as always. Keep it up. All right. Whenever you're ready. Oh, wait a minute. I forgot. No, I didn't. Didn't do our sponsor read. I mean, if they don't get it in this stream, they're going to be, mad at me.
Mm.
So everybody, go secure yourself with Strong DM. See ya. Do it. Everyone needs it. Everyone needs, to not be logging into your secure systems directly. Don't do that.
You can always get stronger.
All right, make it stronger. That's right. All right. Now I'm ready. Whenever you're ready.
Well, I'm sure it's just some sort of happy coincidence of needing something to talk about, but here it is. It looks like what do they call it, Brandon? It looks like the Great Resignation has finally hit the ranks of tech company executives and CEOs. You got the Splunk CEO going out. Okta hired someone from Splunk. It looks like there's some stuff going on over there at Dynatrace, and on and on and on, right? And it does, in some of these instances where people, the CEOs move out, the stock price goes down a little bit, and sometimes it doesn't, sometimes it does. Whatever. Tide goes in, tide comes out. But do you think, my first question, Brandon, is, do you think if you are a departing executive and you leave and the stock price goes down enough to make headlines, do you think at some point you're kind of like, yeah, that's right? Like, you think you do a little victory dance about your importance, or are you just too stressed out and professional with your new job to really even notice?
No, man, I think you'd have to. I think it's just human nature. Every time you leave a job, I mean, I don't know, the unwritten, unsaid thing is like you always want the place you left to collapse, like as if you were the pillar that was just holding up everything in the, and then you have lunch with your work friends and you're like, oh, that thing just went away. But of course, nothing actually happens. Like you leave and everything's generally the same. But the Splunk one, I thought was interesting for a couple of reasons. One was because this line is sort of maybe not deceiving, but it sort of tells the story. It says Splunk stock has risen about 120% since Merritt, I guess that was the outgoing CEO, became CEO, compared with 125% growth in the S&P 500. So that's obviously what did his tenure in, was like, hey, the S&P 500 is 125. You're only doing 120, and I'm sure Splunk considers itself a high growth company. So it's weird to like both have a great statistic, because if you just take that in isolation, you're like, yeah, well, I was there. Like I would put this kind of stuff on a resume, right? You'd be like, yep, I was there. Yep, it's up 120% under my tenure, right? Like people would love. You think in isolation, people would love that. So clearly got caught up in that. But the other thing that I thought was interesting about this one is that Splunk is sort of in that category of started enterprise, trying to make the leap to like SaaS and cloud, right? But it's like almost like companies started between, let's say, 2008 to 2012, right? We're kind of caught in between, right? They were maybe doing enterprise, but then they had to switch to SaaS, right? And of course, like you have, the high growth SaaS company. So I just think it's interesting that I think Splunk is kind of, because I think of them as a relatively new company in the industry, but like it's actually pretty old. And it is sort of like, as we talk about in the show, like so much of things is timing, right? It's like you kind of wanted to be on one side or the other, right? You wanted to either start maybe 2002, post.com crash, 100% enterprise, get your company big, sold, whatever. And then you didn't want to be in the like the morass of like SaaS or no SaaS or enterprise, because everything that started maybe after 2012 or 2013 was primarily SaaS only, right? So Splunk, I think, is one of those things the company's done obviously tremendously well, but I think that's where they find themselves. And I don't know if there's any easy answer. And the other reason I think that was included in this note that's kind of indicative of where the industry's going is that they said one of their president of worldwide field operations at Splunk left for Okta. And of course, Okta is, 100% SaaS company. So you kind of see like the executives kind of figured that out too. They're like, yeah, time to go, time to get away from this and time to go all SaaS. So I think that's whoever takes this job at Splunk, you have to figure out the SaaS strategy. That's going to be the board of directors' first question is my guess.
Oh, man, this is, I don't think either of us does. Maybe you'll be surprising here, but I have no capability to have insight into this, right? But it's another instance of man, I when you're going over that 120% versus 125%, I'm just imagining like some product managers within Splunk, and they're like, we did a great job, but for some reason we didn't get that 5%. And maybe we just chose the wrong story to implement in iteration 52, right? And it's just like measuring against. It's just a weird system to exist in with software, right? And then the other, product managing and developing software, and then the other thing next to that is like, it's maybe, I mean, it's been in front of us this whole time, so I don't know why I haven't necessarily thought of it, but Splunk is probably a good, fresh example of how difficult it is to like change, right? Because like when Splunk first came out, and for many years, they were just like the crazy, like scary, like disrupting whatever thing, right? Like they were like
right.
the major whatever. And so it's almost like, at what point can you not just like become a SaaS company, right? Or like whatever it is. Like at some point, SaaS companies will have to become something, and they'll like, I mean, ServiceNow has been pretty good at like wangling through also its weird history of doing stuff. But like, it is just sort of like, one, like what exactly, I mean, obviously it's hard and culture change and blah, 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 all the stuff we all talk about forever. But like, I wonder exactly what the issue is, right? Like if structurally it's impossible because you can't sacrifice the revenue and priority in order to like take 2 years to re-engineer, like if that's the thing, or if it's just like these 4 people like don't want to do it.
Well, it's always a large organization. It's always a combination of multiple things. And some people are pointing out here in the chat is, we should be remiss not to say it's not. Splunk does have a SaaS option, which, I think we know about. But as people in the chat are kind of saying, it's just really expensive. And I think that in itself, like to me, like highlights the problem. It's like parsing the sentence, right? It's like, oh, Splunk has a SaaS option versus like Okta or something else. It's like, no, all they're known as a service. So like if you're thinking about it from an investor point of view and you want these high margins, like you don't want to have to say to the investor class or financial analysts that like, oh, we also have a SaaS option, because they're immediately like, oh, so you're not you're not the high growth superstar company because it implies you have something else, right? You have this enterprise version. And the fact that it's expensive, I don't know. I mean, I don't know exactly why it's expensive, but like theory would be, it's like, yeah, most of the time when you're coming from the enterprise and you do a SaaS version, it is expensive because you haven't kind of built it to, if you will, reap all the cost benefits of just doing a SaaS, right? Because it's like, oh, I still got to maintain the patches and I still got to replay the enterprise. And you're kind of, the SaaS version is just like this other version of the software that you're kind of maintaining as an enterprise for all your customers, but at the same time, you're maintaining these other things, which makes it more expensive, right? And that's why, because you have all the overhead. So all of these things, I think it's like back to your question here, is like, this is the dilemma. Like the whole organization is set up to be selling enterprise and making enterprise money and working that way. And it's not like one person, maybe everyone does want to go SaaS, but like you still have to caretake this whole other thing. And it's very difficult to like really make the jump. Like if you really wanted to do it, you would be like, hey, we're 100% SaaS from this day forward. Now that will freak people out, right? Because it'll put your existing revenue at jeopardy. And I think that's why people don't do it. But that would be what you probably need to do.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think the, I mean, that has been, I don't know if it's true, but that's what anecdotally what people always have said for years when Splunk comes up is that they're expensive. And I guess what I should have been asking all these years is compared to what, right? Like that's always a good question to ask, like, is it like over serving expensive? Is it like gratuitously expensive? Like, so, and I'm not dismissing the notion that it's expensive, but it's kind of like another thing people always say is expensive is like Heroku. And that's another instance where it's like, well, yeah, but like compared to what? Like, it's kind of like saying like a really good steak is expensive. It's like, yes, it is expensive and you get something for it. But then the question becomes like, and I guess that's the distinction to draw from is, do you mean it's overpriced or do you mean it's expensive, right? Like, is it like you can get exactly the same thing, if not better, for much cheaper? Or do you mean just like, ooh, I really would like that super, like, have you seen the new logos they have for the Cadillacs? Like, I want that Cadillac Escalade fully filled out with the cream seats inside. But man, it's expensive. Like if I said expensive in that context, I'm not saying that the black Escalade with the cream seats inside is like bad. I'm just saying like that's more money than I have to spend for something I would really like. And so like there needs to be this other word than expensive that's sort of like way overpriced. and,
Right.
and then so when you are in that situation, and I think this is like there probably even should be a name for this, but that when you go from an on-premise thing to a SaaS thing in the same kind of product area, I mean, there's three issues. One of them is like you've got a technology problem that you just have to figure out, right? But that's sort of like, that's almost like, that's the vendor's problem. Like that's, if it's not, it's just like, that's something you got to solve, right? And then two is sort of like, well, okay, so probably structurally the SaaS should be cheaper, right? Like the expectations are going to be that the SaaS should be much cheaper than like doing it on premise, because the first thing you're going to fall into with pricing is you're going to be like, I know this SaaS pricing looks expensive, but it's just as I was saying, compared to what? Now let's bring in all the money you have to spend on your own infrastructure. And you're going to want that to be redundant. So you got to spend money on that. And then you've got to spend money on the staff that maintain this. And how much we're just going to look up the average government rates for salary for a sysadmin and a storage admin.
Right.
And then you've got to spend, and the next thing you know, you've just created this, menu of weird stuff. Right. And it makes a compelling ROI thing. And then it's sort of like, now what if I told you we could reduce that by 100%? I mean, not by, like by 50%. And then the SaaS pricing, like you've anchored your pricing on something totally different than just like someone showing up and being like, boy, that's expensive. Right. And so like you play, I mean, that's what you're doing with a business case or an ROI thing, is you're setting the price anchor like on something different than people's first impressions. Right. Which is critical. And so you have that issue of just like, when you create a new SaaS version, no one knows what the fuck the anchor is, right? There's no point of reference for what it should cost. So you've got to figure something out. And of course, the buyer's anchor is always going to be like, could you pay me to buy it? Like that's where they're going to want to start. And so
right.
like, and
but I think you have that. I think you have two things. You have that vector, right? And then you also have, in the case of Splunk, like if someone asked me like, hey, what does Splunk do? I'd say like, oh yeah, you can search your log files, right? That's sort of like the shorthand I would do. But when you go to their website and you kind of look at like, okay, what are the business problems? Because this would be kind of back to your thing. It's like, one way to say it is product marketing has not done a good job articulating the value. And when someone says something expensive, another way to say that is like, we have not demonstrated the value to them, right? About what it is. And so when you go to Splunk though, and I think Splunk has always fallen in this category, like I'll just read their tagline, like powering security, IT, and DevOps. And it's like, okay, like what exactly does that mean? And what are you doing? And then of course they've got observability on here, right? The new catchphrase. So from the beginning, I think Splunk has always been like, if you got down to it, is like, this thing is awesome at searching log files, right? And there are lots of reasons you could search log files, but there are lots of reasons that, it's not that useful, right? It doesn't, if you will, provide that much ROI justification. Now, of course, there's like tons of reasons. Like if you search a log file and you discover a vulnerability that you've been hacked by, an external nation state force, and, you're potentially at risk of, losing the entire company, Splunk was well worth it, right? I mean, it's 100% worth it. If you got found some arbitrary trace messages out of some application that no one cares about, it's a total waste of time, right? So that I think has always been like, to me, it's always been like Splunk's difficulty is like, there's immense information in these log files that's valuable to you, right? But generalizing the value proposition so that everyone can easily see that and like why it's valuable has, I think, always been difficult, not just for Splunk. I just think for this category. And I think that's why, observability, and I should note here, we did have someone reach out from Honeycomb. So we're going to have that person on the show here in the not too distant future. So we'll do a little deep dive on observability, get to the bottom of that. But I think observability is another attempt at trying to say there's a tremendous valuable in these log files, right?
Yeah.
Let me show you why. But observability, right? I mean, and we'll get into it maybe when we do that interview. It's like, I don't know if it's necessarily like proving the point, but it's at least an attempt. It's an attempt to say like, I need to show you the value more. And I think that's where Splunk finds itself today. It's just like, it is really good. It's great at log files, but the value proposition is kind of left to the user to figure out. And many people feel like, it's not worth it.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, it's to use a whatever analogy. I mean, it's like insurance, right? Like insurance is only valuable like when you need it. And then unfortunately you have to like pay for it and get nothing until like, you lose an arm or whatever, right? Like, and I think that's part of what makes insurance such a fantastic business is like, you're basically like, hey, this is for when you lose an arm. So could you spare a couple bucks? Right. Like, and so your people are whatever insurance. I should have been in insurance. That seems like it'd be a great business to be on the paying people who lose their arm side, not the losing your arm side. But, I mean, this kind of changes with the third thing. And I was thinking through, and it gets to like, well, at first what I was thinking, right? Like going back to the difficulties of going from on-prem to SaaS, right? I think there's something to with that second thing, which is like, I feel like the expectation with a SaaS is that it's going to be cheaper, right? Or at least the structure of the deals you do is different, right? And so this is like a classic disruption problem where like, and this is kind of what I was saying is like, there are revenue issues with converting a company over is you just like, there's just no tolerance for being like, oh, hey, we're going to lose money for like 3 or 4 years because we're actively sabotaging our own current install base. And I think, there's a picture of like the CEO of Splunk on like Jim Cramer's Mad Money. And I don't know if there's enough time on a Mad Money interview to kind of throw out the nuance of like, disruption theory and that like, well, we could get bought by private equity who will just unlock all this value and then bring us back because, someone was punching the sell button or whatever. But like, you got to do that, right? Like there's this kind of like evolution of tech. And, I bring them up a lot, but like, I think Adobe figured that out somehow. Maybe they were like low enough profile or something, but like, I feel like, I don't know, like I've always wanted to do this and I never do it, which means I never will. But like, I think that the pricing for Creative Suite Online appears cheaper than if you bought like Creative Suite in a cardboard box like several years ago. Like like somehow if you were to like look at it certain ways, like it seems like they're pricing it differently and maybe they are, but it's like somehow they figured out this pricing issue, right? Like, and they've converted and they're still not purely a SaaS company. You actually install the software, but they've done something interesting and weird there. Like somehow they got through this hole. But the I think that's what a lot of the issue comes down to is like once like an on-premise thing is understood to be big and expensive and like lumbering and important. But then once you move it to a SaaS thing, it's supposed to be like easy and cheaper and better. And then it connects to another not bad thing, but another difficult thing in the technology world, which is like, I mean, kind of, sort of, what was really expensive 5 years ago should be kind of dirt cheap now. Right,
Inflation.
right. It's yeah. It would not only inflation. I mean, this is like
Yeah.
a computer that you buy, or like if I were to buy a software license from 5 years ago, the value of that software from 5 years ago is like not as good as like the newer version of it, right? And so like and then to the point that there's so many other companies that like have kind of come along and done the like the systems management stuff, like the value of just like systems management stuff is not super high. Right, so like it's almost like if what you're doing is selling tools in the systems management space, you have to like come up with new, more difficult problems that you're solving and new, more difficult product lines. And then your base thing is just sort of like, yeah, like I paid a lot of money for that 5 years ago. And why am I paying the same amount of money for it? Right. Like it should be cheaper to do. And it's like not that big of a deal. So you're always on this constant race of like, I don't know, that's 5 years ago problems that I've solved there. Why am I still paying more money for it? It's much cheaper to like solve that problem now. And then you're unless you come up with some new products, your pricing is like it's crazy. And then you get people running around saying it's expensive, which
And then, of
you don't want
course,
to be
too,
in
I
that
think we
situation.
should. It's not a. I don't think they're direct competitors. I mean, maybe other people will chime in, but you kind of have you have the perpetual Datadog problem here. So, like today, the market cap, if I'm reading this right, Datadog is just under $60 billion, right? Splunk is, looks like about $21 billion. So another shorthand for this whole thing. And I think many many companies are experiencing this is like, hey, we're just as good as Datadog, right? Like we've been around longer, and I can probably name 5 or 10, right? Like we've been around longer. We did something similar. We're just as good. And I don't understand. And then so I think all the executives, all the QBRs are like, why is this company like 2 to 3 times our size? And it's likely Splunk has more customers, longer roster. So some of it is just you're just running across. I think you're running across that a lot. So I definitely think, though, I don't know. We'll have to get our some investment bankers on here. Like there's a number, right? There's a private equity number for Splunk. I don't know if 21 billion is it. Like I don't know if it needs to drop again, or if we're approaching the private equity firms are, they've finished the spreadsheets, they've done the analysis, and that we will be reading in the next few weeks. They're being sold to private equity, and they'll get cleaned up. They'll either SaaSify or they'll make it all enterprise, and then they bring it back to the market or bring it out to some strategic vendor and sell it for 30 billion, netting out like, a nice 10 billion or something along those lines. Like it feels like we're on that path for Splunk already.
I think this is making, I don't know if this is true, but I'm feeling like maybe I'm coming around to private equity in tech. I think there's, I think we have uncovered, not uncovered, but yet again,
We probably should have started 20 years ago, but go on.
yeah, I think yet again we have come upon the helpful, even necessary role that private equity plays in tech vendor companies, which is like when you just got to say like, oh, we need to take a few years off and like not have to focus on growth, right? I think that might be a naive understanding of private equity, but like at some point, there's a lot of waste that happens in the overall system just because like someone couldn't just retool and they had to keep showing like crazy growth just because like again I'm sure the product owner or product manager of some little team of in a big company like this is like, great job last year, guys, but we were off by 5% according to the S&P 500.
Right.
So all that work you put in, whatever, see you later, right?
But it's a nice I would say that I it'd be interesting to talk to like somebody that really runs private equity. To me, I'm like, if I'm in the room, like, the thing about, if you're thinking about taking a private equity, is like, I bet you Splunk is super sticky. Like once you get it in and it, and you're using it day to day for like, if for all the companies that did figure out they needed it for IT security or some other reason, once it's in there and it's sort of in your workflow, your operations workflow, it's going to be there for a long time. So if you're the private equity and you're like looking at it from like an annuity point of view, it's like, yeah, this thing's going to throw off cash for a long time. Like maybe the stock market doesn't want it. So I feel like this is a nice private, and also the fact the CEO stepped down, and maybe that's why the CEO stepped down, was like, hey, we want you to, we're about to sell this to private equity, and that person decided that's not for them. So it'll be interesting.
I mean that seems to be one model of like, a PE thing in tech is like we've got good cash flow. So basically, instead of doing quarter by quarter investing, we're going to take out a loan, use the cash flow to like pay off the interest on that loan, and then we actually do some work here so that when we re-IPO this thing, we've increased the valuation for it and we can cash out, and the loan gets paid off, and then we could kind of service it during that, and we make ourselves like however many percentage points, right? But like we take on all that not risk, but like we basically make it so that you don't have to worry about paying things out and making numbers, and in return,
yeah, well, we take away the if you will, the strategy tax, right? Like we're here for you to sell what you have, make and throw off a lot of cash. We're not going to penalize you because you don't have some great SaaS story that may or may not exist that that people in the public markets want to buy. Like so it's just, you're just measured in a more, I don't know if it's fair, but I say a different financial way. That's probably the way to think of it.
Yeah, I don't know. Still seems like it'd be annoying, but probably better than nothing.
All right, good. Splunk. Friends at Splunk. 46. All right. And then probably if you want to learn more about Splunk, where should you go, Kote? I'm put you on the spot. Can you think of a good company that would
about Splunk?
That would just, I don't know, but that would just teach you about IT things in general. Could you think of anyone?
Yeah. If you wanted some knowledge, you might go to CVT Nuggets.
That's right. There you go.
Yes.
Well done. Well done.
Yeah. What is Splunk's revenue versus Datadog?
I don't know. I didn't pull that up. Datadog. I just looked that up. I was like, man, Ryan, you're killing it. Datadog. Jeez. I didn't realize. I keep double checking that I read the right number. It's like, wow, Datadog is worth almost $60 billion. Woo. Man, monitoring. Man, we missed. Gosh, so much time spent in monitoring, so little money made. I tell you, I just totally missed that.
Yeah. Who would have known?
I guess the people at Datadog.
I don't know, man. Back in the early DevOps booth days, I feel like they were just like, I'm just happy to be here. It's great that I get to be here with my dog guy, and then
my purple dog,
and then something happens.
They got a lot of mileage on that purple dog. It's worked out well for them.
Yeah, that would be a good comparison. Another thing I'll never do is to like look at like the numbers of the two, but not from a like what's going on here, but more, it'd be fun to get like a financial analyst and be like, all right, what's going on here? Like how are these valuations different, and like what accounts for that, and like what I mean, because like Splunk probably has more revenue, like by a lot. And well, maybe like their ARR is declining, or like, I don't know.
Well, I don't know where you want to go next, but like one thing you could do if you want to like work this back in the show, like I don't know if you Staples Center in Staples Center, so Los Angeles, that's where like a lot of the sports teams play, including the Lakers. But anyway, it's being renamed crypto.com. And I just I think that's like a good lead into like, is this the top of the market? Because somebody else was saying about valuations. It's just like, because this is sort of like a return to like Enrod Field. I think pets.com, it's just like, is this the moment? Like, is this like, we talk about it being overvalued, but if you want to work it back in, we can do that.
Yeah, that sounds good. Boy, this is like a Kit Kat, except it's got like white chocolate inside. I don't know what's up with that. Oh, unfortunately named Kinder Maxi. It's
what does that mean?
I don't know.
We can do that, and then I don't know. Maybe we should do your the Git
That sounds
Push,
good.
and then do
That
Git
sounds good.
Push, something like that. All right.
Well, I don't know if it's related at all, but also in the wacky world of technology, it looks like the Staples Center is going to be renamed to the Crypto.com Arena. And first of all, you know, it's got to be hard to be a sports announcer at some point where you're like, welcome back to the Crypto.com Arena. What you're a big sports watcher. What is the most awkwardly absurd named like arena that a sports broadcaster has to always say?
Oh wow, you're putting me on the spot. That's a good question. I'll take some thinking. But like, does the Staples Center actually seems like normal to me now? But I just wonder if when that was announced back in the day, I was like Staples, the
Yeah,
office supply company. But now, like sometimes people even say like the sports commentators will often say like, "Oh, the game's at Staples," or like tonight here at Staples. Like, and you kind of like know if you watch enough, if you're a sports fan, you're like, what they're talking about. Where it seems
totally.
like when you take it out of context, like when they say like, "Oh, tonight we're at crypto," you'd be like, "What? Like, what are you talking?" Like that sounds very awkward now, but maybe in 5 years, I'll be like, "Oh yeah, that's the crypto." And I don't know, the .com thing is a weird thing too. It's like it's I don't that feels like that one does. It has a very .com 2000
Yeah,
implosion ring to it. The fact that you're saying crypto.com, you're like, oof, I could see them having to sell this name in a few years because everything's gone wrong, right? It just reminds me of the 2000. Enrod Field was one. There's a bunch of other
oh
weird
yes.
names. So I don't know. I mean, I feel like we look at the stock market. We were just talking about Datadog and others, and it's like, well, it's great. Everything's going well, and people look good. But I don't know if we're just scarred because we lived through it, like that 99 2000. It does. Sometimes I look at the 401k. I'm like, wow, this could go down. Maybe I should take some action. I don't know. I'm not sure what to do, but I'm a little
Yeah,
worried.
I'm remembering, isn't there some stadium that's like the intuitquickloan.com like
Yes,
stadium?
yes,
Like
there's that.
that seems like it might be the worst, right? To be, welcome back to this stunning defeat between the two sports teams at the intuitquickloans.com arena. Like I'm not sure what else other than that, if it was like, if there was something called like pottybuddy.com or something that was like the
Did you see
cheap
how much
bidet.
these naming rights go for? Did you
No,
Would
no.
you
How
want to?
many?
Do you want to venture a guess of like over 10 years what you would pay for the
uh
naming rights to the
I mean, it must be like 5 bitcoins. Is that how much you have to pay?
$700 million is what it
Wow.
was.
What even is crypto.com? Is this how it works? Is the $700 million being paid off by me asking what it is?
Well, I think so. I mean, I guess it's working. We're talking about it, so they're getting some free advertising. So it's
Ugh,
like crypto.com. It's like in exchange for like cryptocurrency, right? And all those.
I
So it's
see.
one
I
of the
see.
major ones. So clearly, and then I started thinking about it. It's like I actually think it's what's funny. I always feel like things are not worth it. Back to our conversation earlier, it's like I actually think when you pay for these names, like if your goal is just name awareness, right? I think it actually pays off. It works because it gets said so much in so many different events over
Yeah,
such a
yeah.
long period of time. It's just like you're paying this huge marketing bill up front. So it seems like, you know, uh, it's wrong, but it's like, no, like you want everyone to talk about, where they are, and that will create incredible name recognition over time. So I think, I don't
Yeah.
know. I
It also probably, helps move it along to seeming normal, right? Just
Yes.
like just like I think I don't the only reason I ever read about Bitcoin stuff is, cuz everyone talks about it, right? Like, so every now and then I come across it. And my understanding is the new mayor of New York wants to be paid in Bitcoin or something. I don't know what that means. That sounds weird. But like it does seem like boy, for such a weird thing, sure seems normal nowadays, right? So it's there's like this critical moment of like Bitcoin I don't even know what I'm talking about. Crypto normalcy, where like it's almost a normal thing, right? Like it's still like a crazy wacky thing. Like people kind of think like programming's a strange exotic thing out there on the frontiers there. but it's at least like a normal thing. And so I don't know, maybe you buy like some stadium, right? And people are like, yeah, sure, of course you would name it crypto. That's pretty cool, right? Crypto.com. Like, I feel like if maybe 10 years ago something was like, the Facebook arena, that would seem really weird. But nowadays, now that I think of it, it's sort of like, I don't know why they don't sponsor things. I mean, they don't have to, I guess, right? But like, there's a certain point where maybe getting that normalcy to their name out there would have been fine. There's no Google arena, right? These companies, and Microsoft doesn't maybe they sponsor like Formula One or something, right? Tech companies have this habit of
Yeah, there's a
sponsoring
lot of
Formula
Formula
One
One
cars.
tech, like Splunk, and I think Dell, and there's a bunch in Formula One. That's true.
But they're not like NASCAR or
No,
football
no, no.
or
Well,
American
funny
sports
enough,
sponsors.
crypto, because I've been watching some Formula One this year. Crypto.com is a sponsor of Formula One. So I guess it just gives you an indication of like pretty much the most obscene money you can spend, I guess, is naming rights for sports stadium and F1 sponsorships, right? Because I mean, that's
Yeah.
just, I mean, I don't know. It's like, I don't know what's more expensive. I mean, maybe something is, but that's when you're at maximum spend because you just feel like not only do you want everyone to know about it, but you want people to know about it who are essentially watching the most expensive sports in the world, right? That's is what it comes down to.
Yeah. I mean, I just can never imagine that a Formula One sponsorship for a tech company pays off.
Oh,
Like
I think so. No, I actually think, because the ability to take people to events, right? So you get 22
yeah, yeah.
races around the world.
All right, all right,
You
all
got
right.
all
That's
your sales people
yeah,
bringing people
yeah.
to the great F1 suite, having a great time, talking a little business. I mean, that's why you're doing it, right? I mean, that's
I guess
um
I guess I guess you're right. Like and that's why if you're a big enough company and you've got enough like high seven, like low eight-figure deals, if not more, like running around, right? Like you do like 10 or so of those based on like an F1 sponsorship, you're probably good, right? And then you also just have like the coolness of it, right? Like you can make the videos about how like your software is used to analyze like the brake pedal
yeah, I'm sure
action
we'll
or
see.
something.
Last year I think it was Ferrari did a whole session at AWS, right? And they showed how they use all the data, and they showed. I mean, it was fine. It was interesting, but like that's just another like little bonus, right? To it. It's like they're
Yeah,
at your
yeah.
shows. You take your clients to their events, right? It's like I don't know. It seems like a fun way. I guess maybe because I like sports. I'm like, well, we got to spend this money somehow. Might as well spend it a fun way. Let's go for it. Let's get some naming rights. But
Yeah.
I don't know. But I want to ask you before we get on. We'll get on another subject in a second. It's like the crypto thing, like I don't know, maybe it's just one of these things like I have like serious, FOMO. I'm always like, I guess I'm just missing it. I just don't like I've read a lot, I've learned a lot about it. And like to me, it's like I get it, I get the speculation, but I always come back to uh without any like real world use case, I'm just like, I just can't get there. I'm always like, I guess I'm just missing it, right? I'm just waiting. I'm waiting for that. It feels a lot like the other thing I can think of here was like two things. Like when Enron was like trading options for bandwidth, you remember back when that was going on? I was like,
Uh-huh.
man, I totally don't understand this. I never understood it. And I was like, I just never got it. And then eventually that kind of proved that to be true. The other thing is like not to take a shot at IBM a little bit, but like Watson, like, there's because I was worked there for a little bit and I always thought it, but like there always this talk about like how Watson could do all this stuff, right? And I remember like just like being an IBM, I'm like I can never find anyone like where is it? Like what like can we see it? Like how does it do the cancer thing or how does it do? And it was always like these very complicated, isolated things. And so I don't know, maybe I'm just like I'm cherry picking examples of where like I didn't see it and it didn't work out. So it's sort of some validation, but I kind of feel like the same thing around, all of the cryptocurrency. Like I get it. I get the idea of the decentralized and all those things, but it just never, it's like at some point, like we got to see people using it day to day in some meaningful way for it to come to light, or we can't just keep changing the goalposts. And so I don't know, but then I'm sure people tell me I don't get it. I'm wrong. And I'm like, well, I kind of feel that way. I'm like, you're probably right. So I struggle like fighting that like, if you will, internal, mental discussion with myself. I'm like, am I missing it, or am I getting too caught up in just feeling like I'm missing it, or is there actually nothing here? So I guess time will tell.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's like, well, I mean, one, like obviously it's a bunch of bullshit. right? Like I think you laid out the case pretty strong there. Now, to be less flippant about it, right? Like I think I mean, I don't know. It's such like a sticky pot of honey to like jump into to get yourself trapped in there. But like it seems like, what do I know? I'm just a common guy in a hoodie that I should have washed before recording this. But like maybe one day if I can use some crypto Bitcoin stuff to like buy my groceries, right? Then it's actual currency, right? Like I just want currency. Like there's some abstract notions of like where do you store your capital and like things like that. And
Right. Store
like
value, right? Mhm.
yeah, it's like I don't know, in a bank. That's where I store my capital, and like I could buy like the S&P, which apparently has returned 125% since
Since the
Merritt was
Splunk
the
CEO
CEO of
took over.
Splunk. Looks pretty good to me. And then it's like, well, and then how about like transferring money? It's like, well, I live in Europe, which has proven that transferring money is a super solvable problem. It's just those stupid Americans who haven't fixed their ACH system, right? I mean, whatever. I'm being snarky here, but it's just sort of like all these things that you can kind of pile on that like crypto and Bitcoin is going to solve is like, yeah, or we could just solve the problems, right? Like we could just do the things. And then so then let's go down like, okay, we want to establish a currency, right? And the issue is that like, I mean, it's one thing to like, I want to buy milk with my crypto, whatever. That's cool, right? But then I often think about like, okay, but if I'm the grocery store, what you're telling me is that I am going to actually trade a real thing for this highly volatile, always like flipping around like currency that's not even as stable as just like money, right? And so like maybe I buy into the notion that like any Bitcoin I get now is going to increase in value by the end of the year so much that like I will happily give you some milk in return for this Bitcoin that's going to increase 300% by the end of the year. In which case, why the fuck am I buying milk with it?
Right.
Right?
You just keep it, right? Yeah. Yeah. Well, I
Like
know, but like we probably shouldn't get too down because I think like I don't know, we get a lot. This is the one subject we get a bunch of feedback on that we don't know what we're talking about. But I
that's
do think
I
the
just
thing
want
the
to buy
part
milk. That's
that's right.
all.
The part I think is interesting, I guess, is or the part I would just volunteer to everyone's like, you're like, I don't know. Like I have a lot of skepticism and like when you read Chris Dixon, like one of the real crypto bulls, right? Like, an A16Z partner, super smart, very rich, nothing but respect from him. Like he's done great things. Like, but he will, on Twitter come at you with like all the stuff like first you think it's a toy, then you think it's dismissive, like kind of like this disruption theory, right? Like they'll just relentlessly come at you like you don't get it, you're not part of like you're missing it, like this is another classic thing, this is like saying the iPhone, like this is like Steve Ballmer saying the iPhone will never succeed. And it's like, okay, like, but they're relentless at it, right? They're just relentless and pushing it. And you're like, okay, I want to be open to that school of thought, but I still, at some point, like it doesn't even have to be currency. Like I need something that actually happening with it that is outside the value of just owning it, right? And it's like, but it just feels like even if you express that in like, to someone that you're you're just going to get to like, quote unquote, you don't get it. And it's like, so at some point you throw up your hands, it's like, well, I'm just going to ride this. I don't know. I'll either break down and buy Bitcoin or I'll just, be like, man, I should have bought it and I missed out on a ton of stock. But it's a difficult thing to see. And I think the crypto.com arena sort of is like I do think it's like a monumental moment we can put on the timeline. It'll either be the point where like it was the absolute height and it just completely collapsed, or this was the moment that actually drove it to mainstream adoption and we're all going to buy tickets or use crypto when we go see, the Lakers play in the new crypto.com arena.
It's true. It's true. I mean, whenever someone invokes the I don't know. Well, one, like cribbing a like some Gandhi poetry to like promote your like crypto stuff is a little annoying. But it's sort of like there are many people. I forget the full Gandhi thing, but like at first they laugh at you and then they're upset and then they like then you're cool. I've totally skewered something there, but like it's sort of like I think in most cases they just keep laughing at you. Like there's like we always forget the cases where like laughter just continued to the grave, right? Like there's plenty of instances where it was just goofy, right? Like being laughed at is not a signal that you're right. Is
Right,
an
right.
important thing to pay attention to. But yeah, I mean, who knows? It could be fantastic, and then we've been holding on to all these dollars, and next thing you know, we're the ones, sweeping the milk row from when
All
people
right,
were
but more
there. So
importantly, something we do know a little bit about is, I guess, was it Netlify? They raised a bunch of money, Cote, and this is I think maybe it turns out one of your coworkers said is um, Heroku itself isn't what people want. What we actually want is Git Push Heroku main, and I think this is just a perfect summary of like this is the Nirvana. Like it doesn't really matter what it is. That's what the people want. They just want Git push, and then by magic, everything just works. So, you actually took some look at it. Like, is it Netlify? Am I saying it right? Are they doing it? Do they have a new
Netlify.
solution to this? Are they the ones to actually make it happen for us, or will we again initially be excited and then find out it doesn't do what we want it to do?
Well, in a rare instance where I get to play the Brandon to kind of explain things a little bit. Like I did do some preparation, some research. So I'm slightly prepared here. Now, I actually have never heard it pronounced, but I assume it's Netlify. And they I haven't done this much research, but like I like the two things you mentioned, I think are strongly connected here, right? And I think what's interesting, so Netlify is like, I guess it was like a CDN, and then it's a very Heroku-like story. Like, remember, there's Heroku, and then they came up with that wonderful, I remember when I got briefed on this, unless I'm making it up, but there was this wonderful piece of technical marketing called 12factor.net. And
Yes.
basically what
Yes.
12factor.net was like, if you want to write an application to run on Heroku, you should do these things. And someone had the brilliant insight to, and this is one of, now that I'm thinking about it, probably one of the best instances of do not give me a vendor pitch that is a vendor pitch, but it's actually a vendor pitch. Is
Right.
like,
Right.
I mean, basically those 12 factors go over. If you want to run your application in Heroku, it should follow this. So here's a spec. But they
Yep.
kind of removed Heroku from that picture when they were talking about it. And it was this whole like, you know, and it has become its whole thing, right? Like it's the rare chance where some marketing became the technology. Uh, Whatever. I mean that in a good way. And I think, my understanding of there's the Jamstack pattern that you use, right? And essentially it relies on like, and not in a bad way, like you basically statically generate a huge amount of your web application, and I guess it can be a mobile app too. And you spit those out onto a bunch of CDN, so it's really fast and it's also static. And if I remember, Netlify is or used to be also a CDN company. So of course, that's the connection to like a 12 factor thing, is they came up with a pattern that a CDN can take advantage of. And what I haven't actually done any Jamstack stuff, and maybe I'm totally wrong in my researching around it, but it looks like now, Brandon, you must remember, because I remember you were there when we were figuring out the old what was it called, XML HTTP request or something, like how
Sure.
you could, back when you could have like a live connection. And so somehow, if you remove all the security issues that I don't think exist anymore, like basically, you can follow this pattern where you've got a bunch of static web pages. And this is where things like, it gets really annoying, kind of like a 12 factor thing, where like you read the 12 factor thing several times over and you're like, stateless. Right. But I'm gonna need state. And then they're like, ooh, stateless. And you're like, right. But I'm gonna know. And then, you're like, oh, right. But I still need a database. So, anyways, like, so you have like these static pages and, they don't have state. But then, you're just calling like through an API or a microservice, if you want to be fancy, to some backing service, some backend, just like you would. I mean, it's like a GUI, except it's in a web page, or it's like, the way that I imagine a lot of apps work. And it seems like that, I don't know anything about it, but like that's the basic idea of like what the Jamstack pattern is, right? To have like a headless a headless CMS system, And that's where things start to make me a little nervous. Is like CMS, a content management system. Like I think I could implement like an online banking platform in this, but like I don't really want to hear the word CMS for my online banking platform, right?
Right.
Like that seems a little rinky dinky there. But like, I mean, connected to Heroku, right? Like it does, if you have the ability to basically like write your application as a web page with JavaScript, right? And you can still actually like have data and interact with the web and do your, interact with all these services out there, then that does sound pretty awesome because you don't have to worry about, and this is worry is where the asterisk gets us into the whole other part of the conversation. I don't have to worry about running a database or standing up infrastructure or anything like that, right? And like I don't really have to like open up a ticket to like use Twilio, right? Or like all these things. And so it's like in the same way, and this is the connection to Heroku, is like it's yet another like go at what if we didn't have an IT department? Right? Like what if I didn't have to worry about like installing and configuring and setting up middleware and doing all of that, and I could just like focus on the UI layer. And I think that's the whole thing, like with Heroku and with the little Cloud Foundry haiku that people like to use, is always this idea of like, I want to write my application code and just like have it running. And like, yeah, I mean, of course that's what everyone wants. Right. And like eh, the issue becomes like all that other stuff has to be run somewhere. And I think the trap is, and I see people doing this rhetorically a lot, is like the trap is to dismiss that first dream as naive and unworthy because you still have to run a database somewhere.
Right.
Right. Whereas,
Well, and I want to clarify one thing because people call me out on it. It's like, so in the official tweet, it's Git Push Heroku main, and it's not having to think about or do anything else, which is very important, right? So that is the nirvana.
yeah,
That's what we're trying to get to.
yeah,
It's like you push it and you do nothing else. And I think what always comes down to these attempts are, I think the constraints are the differentiation, but eventually we all turn on that and the constraints become the weakness that takes the platform down, right? Because if you're willing to develop everything such that it fits in this pattern, right? You're willing to adjust how you think, how you build applications, or even maybe adjust some of the requirements for the application, it would definitely work. But what ultimately happens is somebody will eventually decide, no, I can't do it. Like I need access to a different programming language, a different model, some other
right.
infrastructure or something. And that is the moment that these dreams die because someone decides, no. And what they're really saying there, if we could really, it's sort of revealed preference, is that they're saying, I don't want Git push. I want Git push and I want the ability to tinker on the side because I've just made some decision. But like, I think as an industry, like it's hard for us to like openly have that conversation. It's like, yeah, if you live within the constraints, you will. And that's what you have to do. But people say, I don't want to live within the constraints. I'm like, well, then you can't have what you just asked for. Like there's no getting out of that conversation.
Yeah, no, I think that is that's totally it, right? It's just like if and we of course as vendors are both the sufferers of this and also the creators of it, the co-creators with people. But it's sort of like, yeah, I mean, the more you want to like customize something, and that's a cynical way of putting it. The Let me say it both ways. The more you want to customize something, the more expensive and tedious it's going to become, right? Because it's your one-off customized thing, right? Now, to put it another way, the more unique enterprise mission critical requirements you have, like the more enterprise mission critical and expensive your solution is going to be, right? and
Exactly.
and like, I mean, this is, I think, one of the, maybe it's not underappreciated, but like I think one of the things we don't think on enough about public cloud, and this is not entirely true with the Quinian, like there's 50 ways to run a container in Amazon point, but like at some point when you look at public cloud, like it's a take it or leave it proposition. It's like you can't really, like, you just have to take what's there. And so now again, this is not exactly the case nowadays. Like it's a lot more nuanced and there's lots of options, but like it's a different type. You avoid a certain type of analysis paralysis, right? When it comes to traditional on-premise IT buying and customizing thing. It's just like, I don't know, if we're going to use like S3, it does what it does. Like
Right.
there's no, we don't get to like specify all these things, right? Or if we're going to use like Heroku, to use that example, like it does what it does. Like we can't really like customize it. And we can, and more importantly, like we can't, it's extremely difficult to introduce into the product management loop that there's even the option to change things. Right? Like that you could like change how something is implemented. And you know, maybe if you're the CIA and you want to like have someone build a whole cloud for you, that's one thing. But it's just like, it's a lot different than the chance of like, hey, we can do this on-premise cloud native thing for you, and you can do whatever you want underneath it. And like it's just I don't know. That's crazy. That doesn't work out in the long term. It's much better to just say like, yeah, we should just do this headless thing. And even though as a young programmer and technologist, I was told you're not supposed to think this way, how about we just limit what we do based on the tools that we have?
Well, at least,
Like,
and I think that's the thing that like it gets shot down in the meetings. People are like, right tool, right job. We got to think about the customer, and you see why, like, you know, this is what leads us back to the complexity. And I think what you can do in those meetings is turn back and say, all of that is true, but like by making this more complicated, it means we're going to spend less time doing things that the customer potentially wants. So that's even a trade-off from the perspective of like people often position things like we're not doing what the customer wants, but it's like, hey, no, you know, you've just taken on so much technical debt and infrastructure that's happening anyway, but it's happening in a silent way. And then I think on AWS, and then maybe that's a preview for next week, we'll have to make some reinvent predictions. But you know, if you think about, like, we like to make fun of AWS for the 17 ways to do the container. I like to too, right? It's funny. It is funny when you see it written down. But to be fair about it, the reason they're doing it is 17. There were enough demand for 17 different ways to do it from customers, right?
yeah,
and it's a reflection of like, no, this is what you as an industry are asking for. Collectively, we as an industry want 17 different ways to do it. It's not like Amazon or AWS is doing it because they just think it's fun. I mean, they're at least, you know, outwardly the most customer driven company there is. And it's like, no, this is a reflection of where IT is today. The industry cannot even agree on, can't get lower than 17 different ways to want to do this. And I think that sort of is a reflection of kind of our industry more than it is necessarily a reflection of AWS.
Yeah. No, I mean, I mean, this very topic I'm babbling around like came up today or yesterday or something. It's just like at some point there needs to be some sort of like enterprise architectural movement, which is like do less, and not do less in the elegant way of doing stuff, but just like, oh man, maybe we just shouldn't worry about all those little wingding things. Like, and maybe, I mean, the low code thing like struggles with this, right? Like, but it kind of feels like, to go back to the Heroku thing, it's like the not adjacent, but the related question and discussion is like, I mean, yeah, but why do I have to think about all that stuff at this point? Right? Like, I mean, if I want to just, like, most applications do kind of the same thing. And like, why is this still a problem?
Yeah.
like if I want to have like a 50-page workflow that involves like 5 people like handling some request and filling out data, like doing someone's taxes, right? Like we've all done taxes. This is a very complicated system, more or less, that involves multiple people. it's got to be like enterprise grade and secure and compliant, all the best and worst case things. I don't know if it has to ever be air gap. So I think we're cool there, right? Like, or air gapped. I don't think we have that scenario. But like, just an individual filing even their simplest, hiring someone to file their simplest taxes has all of the complications of any enterprise stack, essentially, right? I mean, maybe not. And it's sort of like, I mean, you could kind of do that totally fine at scale with everything we have available now. And I don't know, it shouldn't be that big of a deal. and yet, like, it constantly is a big deal, right? Like on the I tried to ask around this, in my our reboot of the Drunk and Retired podcast, Drunker and Retireder, which you can get by going to drunkerandretireder.fireside.fm. I'm trying to see how long I can go without actually hooking up a domain name, Brandon. We'll see what happens. Okay. But like the show this week, I was asking Charles, I was like, so you remember like ORM mappers where you would go between like your in-memory representation of your data in your program, and then you would also have to like map it to and from a database because you got to store it somewhere, right? And the whole topic of that episode was, I was thinking one morning, and so I asked him, I was like, have you programmers figured that shit out yet? Because it feels like we've had a lot of time to like basically solve that issue. And like, I mean, he kind of, things have incrementally improved, but it's still like astonishing that it's still like a problem, right? That like just building a system to do something as simple and yet complex as like just filing taxes is like an issue. I mean, like we have Gmail. That seems really complicated. Yeah. Like,
all right, I don't know. We'll see. What is it? How do you say it? Say it again. Netlify? Is that what is it? There's an L in there. Is that what the
Netlify?
All right, we'll see. We'll see if Netlify can bring it home. I don't know. As all of these things, we start out hopeful, but history has shown that like, I don't know, it's hard. But maybe this is it. Maybe it'll happen.
Yeah, this time. Yeah. Well, the one of the I don't know anything about it, but one of the issues is reading through it. It has a lot of the there's 5 different stacks that do these concepts and each different little ways here, which is just like, oh boy, here we go again. Right? Like it's that is, as they say what you will, but like that is something interesting that Docker figured out, is it was just Docker. There wasn't just like, 50 kajillion different ways of doing something. Eventually it was just the one thing until everyone else came in and kind of like broke that all up. But like, I don't know. I mean, it's hard when you've got a concept. Like I think the Jamstack thing is, and then there's like 10 different ways to do it all independently. I don't know. Something's a little dodgy there. Like it doesn't have high hopes for like finally solving the problem for everyone in the same way that having like the one technology that does it solves it. But we'll see. I mean, it's got to be better than that little animated guy going across your page, peeing and then walking back. Like I'm sure it's far and above that. Much better. Well,
all right, we don't have any more ads, but it's good. All right,
yes,
good.
Do we have any bureaucracy this week, Brandon?
Yeah, hold on. I talked over you. Give me one more. Ask me that question again.
Okay. Do we have any bureaucracy this week, Brandon?
We do. We've got a little bit of bureaucracy. We've got some jobs. So Tim wants you to work as a principal architect in commercial and medical IT. And this job is available in Warsaw, Boston, or RTP. So I thought those were 3 unusual locations to have grouped together, but sure, why not? Go check it out. Last week we had, I think, some jobs in Hawaii. So it is. I definitely like the fact that it is. The job posts have definitely changed. Many more locations are available than I've seen before. And then Jeffrey wants you to work at Blizzard as a reliability engineer. I looked at it. So their job title is software reliability. No, it's reliability engineer, software. And I was like, is that the same as an SRE? Not totally sure. I think it is. But if you went into the Slack and you asked Jeffrey about it, he could explain the nuances of what that job title is trying to tell you. And then Cote, I don't know if you're still following it, but for those of you maybe new to Software Defined Talk, there's a Slack thread in our Slack, which you can join. And it's taken on a life of its own. I guess that thread is if you will, become the random channel for the Slack. It is now over 6,000 messages. So it's still going pretty strong. There's a lot of messages in there. I have noticed though, at 6,000 messages that like when it loads on the mobile, it's a little flaky. So I don't know if that's my client. I don't know if that's Slack, but like I don't know if we're finding the upper bound of like how many messages you can have in a single thread on the free plan, but we're 6,000. It's still working pretty well. Although I'm seeing some signs of degradation. So if you would like to join that thread, go sign up at softwaredefinedtalk.com. Just click on the Slack. You can join it, and you can't see all 6,000 messages because many of those have scrolled back in our free plan, but a lot of them are there. So check out the thread, and congratulations to everyone that's part of our ongoing load testing of Slack.
They need to, I wonder if they've heard about the Jamstack pattern that relies on CDNs for rapid delivery of your application content.
That would be.
They should,
Well, I don't know,
look into that.
Maybe someone from Slack will. They can chime in. They can let us know. Let us know if they solved this problem for us.
That's right. That's good. Well, I mentioned the conference that I spoke at last week. It was good, and also we have in January 17th to 20th. There's that conference, and I had a reason to look through in detail. There's been a lot of talks announced and what's going on there, and they accepted our talk to do a recording, Brandon, and they accepted another talk I have. So I haven't gone and clicked submit yet, or submit. That's funny. Confirm,
right?
Accept. But yes, I'm pretty sure I'll be doing that unless I come down with some other malady that persists into there, which will be fun. So we'll have to plan. We'll have to do some figure out the time and plan some live recording. What could go wrong, Brandon? I know that you have enough equipment, so
yes,
we
do.
Can definitely handle that. We got wires and XLRs and probably even.
I can assure you that we'll have a lot of audio equipment that's not working correctly at the VAT conference. 100%. If that's not reason to attend, what else can we offer?
Do you have one of those boxes with like the green, yellow, and red lights bouncing up and down that you can slide things up and down?
Absolutely. Got the mixer. I got that whole thing.
Okay,
I got the mixer. I got microphones. I'm sure the audio team at that conference. I'm sure I'll ask them to do some stuff, and they'll be like, "No, we can't do it." I'm like, "Yeah, we can. We just got to think a little bit."
Okay. Well, once I confirm my travel to there, we got a bunch of stuff in storage there, and we have a house here. I'm going to need to rely on now. One of the great things about our audience is, when we make jokes about how bad transferring money in America is versus Europe, much of our audience is like, I totally get it. I know what you're saying. They're very, very cosmopolitan, very international and cross-border, right? Many people suffer from the same unfathomableness of global SIM cards. Why can't I just get a Google Fi SIM card if it works globally and I have to be a U.S. resident? I don't understand. Like, why do they care? I'm sure, you know what it probably is, Brandon? It's probably some policies somewhere. I was
going to say money laundering. It feels like it's always back to like, that's a money laundering problem. That's always the answer.
True. Yeah. That I was talking with some government people today, and they made me realize an important formulation about rules and policy, and that is that most of the time when people are blocked or saying they can't do something because of a rule, it's not because of a rule, it's because of someone's interpretation of the rule, which I think I only have a bachelor's degree in philosophy, so I can't analyze that further, but I think that's an important thing. So anyways, relying on our cosmopolitan audience, this is the first task I need solved for me right now. We have, you remember Matt Kinman, right, Brandon?
Of course.
For our wedding, he gave us a Cuisinart mixer, a highlight of any kitchen. Now, that mixer is in storage, but it has an American plug on it. And I feel like this is one of those devices, right? First of all, I don't even know where you would buy that over here, right? It's like maybe I should order up one of those GE Profile nugget ice makers to bring home too. But
now we're talking, yeah.
But this is one of those devices that I think I need to bring over here, but I'm not an electrician. So I feel like I'm going to need to buy some sort of fancy converter to go from the American plug, which I still believe is far the superior plug. I think I've outlined the reasons before, just mechanically, but to go from that American plug to a European plug. And I feel like I can't just use like a plug adapter that I buy at the airport. So I don't even know what to search for that, but I need someone to give me advice on the thing that
All right,
I
so I think
evolved
we'll
from that.
nail it down. So I think it's like you need to go from what 120 volts to 220 in
I don't even
European,
know.
and this is I don't know. So the answer may be buy a European version, but they probably don't. You probably already tried that. They don't sell them or they're expensive, is my guess, right?
No, they have them. They're just not the Cuisinart
Not the
ones,
Cuisinart. So I don't know. Maybe there's. I'm sure there's an
But
adapter. There's an adapter for everything else. So there must be something
I
out
mean,
there.
Brandon, I'll do whatever it takes. 220, 220, 221. What doesn't matter. I'm all for it. So that conference is coming up. You should check that out. And I think there's a lot of conferences, being planned for and done next year. I was talking with my my manager about when she's looking into. So hopefully we'll have some more announcements there. Now, with that, first of all, as Brandon said, there's a Slack channel you can go join. All sorts of good stuff going on there. You can follow all the articles that we talk about and don't talk. If you go to softwaredefinedtalk.com, look up in the Slack look up in the what do they call those? A menu bar? Did the kids still say that when they're doing a headless stack? Look up in the menu bar there, and you can click on Slack to join that and all sorts of other stuff. Now, with that, Brandon, what do you have to recommend this week?
Well, my recommendation is maybe for those who are going to come to that conference, they're going to visit Austin. I want to recommend Interstellar Barbecue. So that's it's up here in Northwest Austin. It's actually was opened by the person that started Noble Pig. Remember that one, Cote? This is a long time ago.
I love that guy.
You and I actually went to Noble Pig a couple times, a couple different occasions.
It was right in my neighborhood. I would go there all the time until I was like,
fear
I'm pretty
not.
sure if I eat here more, I'm going to die.
Yeah,
it's so good.
Fear not. So Noble Pig, unfortunately, is closed. That's itself a tragedy of another story. But Interstellar Barbecue is opened in one of the former locations of Noble Pig, and I think it's excellent. I mean, there's the whole Franklin's thing. I have really never had Franklin's the correct way, where you go down there and you get it and you eat it right away. I've always had it catered in some type of event, and it's just been okay. But I don't know if that's Franklin's fault. It's just sort of like, too much time has passed. But Interstellar, I think, is excellent. It's also easy. You can just go in there. You don't have to just go in and order and eat. There's not like this crazy line or something like that. And maybe we'll leave it to our friends over on the hallway track. They can analyze the barbecue for us. But I thought it was excellent. Very moist turkey, very moist brisket. So if you're looking for some barbecue in Austin, I think it was ranked pretty highly recently in one of these various rankings. So check out Interstellar Barbecue in Northwest Austin. It's very good.
Yeah. I mean, when and if I get there, Brandon, like any barbecue will be good. We'll go to Bill Miller's and it'll be a revelation. It'll be great. Have you been to Bill Miller's in a long time?
No, I have not.
I wonder what that's like nowadays. I don't know if they even have that in Austin, do they? You probably have to go to San Antonio to find that.
I think it's around here. It's just I've been like Style Switch, Interstellar, and those are the places I've been hitting lately. I'll hit Rudy's every once in a while. That's why I think Rudy's is it's good because it's so close. So all of those are pretty regular stops.
Solid and friendly. All right. Well, my recommendation when I had the crazy fever, it gave me the opportunity. I had to be laid up in bed for a while, so it gave me the opportunity to finish a book I had started by Graham Greene. You might remember him from all sorts of famous things, and called "Travels with My Aunt," which is a book that I found. One of these Penguin books. I found it at one of the thrift stores around here. I think it was 99 euro cents. Which I think that's like, what is that, like $5 American? I forget what the exchange rate is, but it's like it's a great book because it's like it has the tone of a Graham Greene book, which is what is the tone of a Graham Greene book? The tone is sort of like slight, like just barely wry, kind of mysterious, like Britishness. I don't know. Graham Greene's got a particular thing going with it, but it's like on a totally different subject than he normally writes about. He normally writes about like spies and intrigue and stuff like that. But this one is about this guy who just like meets an estranged aunt. And she's quite the character, and she likes to travel around and get up to hijinks. And it happens in like 1969. So there's like some hippies and like some, like pot smoking, like and it was written in 1969 or so, and happens then. It has this very staid British banker person, so it's It's from that era of the old world of the 20th century, like meeting up with the later half weirdness of the 20th century, and all sorts of yucks and jokes. And it's pretty short too. And also, I read it as an actual physical book, which was very rewarding. I think that's something nice to go back to read the book there. It does remind me though that I need to have a bedside lamp. That's the whole system has been built around a phone, and you realize the limitations of that. Well, with that, this has been Software Defined Talk. If you want to get the show notes for this episode and see archives and everything else, if you go to softwaredefinedtalk.com/330, then you can find them. And with that, we'll see everyone next time. Bye-bye.
All right. Well done. Well done as always here. So trying to follow the chat. I don't know what, like Brett here, what icon does Brett have? And I don't know. Brett, how did you get that icon? Do I have to do something? Or does or can everyone have an icon like that? Let's see here.
There's a different icon? I must be.
That's what people are. That's what some people are saying in the chat. So I don't know.
Is that in Twitch?
In Twitch, I think.
Oh, let me load that up because I'm just looking at the restream, Brandon.
Oh, well, that's what I was looking at too. Oh, okay. I don't know. Maybe I just lack of icon. I don't know. I don't know how Brett got the lack of icon. Maybe because
magic. Oh yeah. Oh, I think that's because the other people have like rewards.
Oh, because we made them like stuff. VIP and stuff.
Yeah.
All right. So I don't know. Everybody, it's opposite. Everybody. Brett didn't get anything good. That's why everyone should feel here. I should make him. I can remember how to do it. How do I make him a VIP?
Is this where you can award a sub or something? Do you have the plugins hooked up where there's like virtual confetti that goes across the screen?
Gosh,
and like an air horn.
You're well beyond my.
We got to get that hooked. We need to get that hooked up, Brandon.
Is there an air horn?
I don't know. You need that on your Slam box, your Elgato glowing button box, stream box.
Is it slash? Okay, what is it's slash VIP? And then
I don't know. Yeah. I don't know how to use Twitch.
Username, is it at Brett? I don't know. I can't. This is the hard part where it just makes it impossible. All right, let's see if it work.
Restream needs some of these features.
Oh, totally. Right.
We need to call in their product managers.
Yeah, they need to get on it. So I don't know. Well, maybe if I figure out how to do it again. It's like, was it VIP you have added? Let's see, what does it say here?
Well, I bet if you go into the are you in the studio?
Okay, no, Brett is now console? A VIP. Got it. Done. Brett, look how lucky you are today. What about Systems Guy? Let's see if I can do that one too. See here. VIP.
And now we need to
all right, done. Did that one too. Oh, see, now Brett has an icon. Everyone should feel good. There you go.
We need to do.
I ruined it for him. Right now, he's there.
Now do we do a raid on a channel? Is that something we can do?
Yeah, I don't know where we would raid. Do you know other channels that we're supposed to like?
And are they going to be reusing that new version of Minecraft with the caves?
Don't you have a coworker that's very like savvy with this? Because we would like her. Like, could she send us? Could we ask her to raid our channel? Maybe that's what we want.
Yeah, just ask Layla to do that. She'll be at that conference too.
She will? Okay.
Perhaps you'll get to meet her.
Okay. That even be better. Fun. Then maybe we can talk some social media. She can.
We'll have to plan some because you got all those other people in Austin.
Yeah. Maybe we can find some way to get. Maybe we just
there's a few people there.
Go eat barbecue. So
that would be nice.
That seems like people would be into it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks to everyone for hanging out with us. Appreciate it. Congratulations to Systems Guy and Brett for becoming VIPs. Make sure to update your MBR, QBR slides with that achievement.
I'll be happy to put it on LinkedIn.
Put it on LinkedIn, whatever else you want. And with that, we'll be back next week, a day earlier, Wednesday. We're going to try to record on Wednesday. So
that sounds good.
Thursday. So if you're looking for some way to escape, maybe your family, come watch the stream. If not, podcast will be out at the same time. All right. Yeah. Talk to you later. Say bye, Kote.
Bye-bye.